Hello everyone, welcome back to MiniTerrainDomain here on Twitch. I am not Jacob Norman, my name is Jeremy. I am from the YouTube channel, The Erasmus Expeditions, which you can find up there in the corner. That's how it's spelled, at least. But I'm going to go ahead and drop the link right there. Yeah, I typically run things over there, but I have been running a mini campaign right here on MTD. We finished it 2 weeks ago. It was called Convergence. And tonight we are going to have a little get-together just as a wrap party. We're going to get together with some of the people who played in that game, as well as myself. We're going to take questions from all of you as audience members. If you look at the bottom of the screen, there is a prompt for asking us questions. So if you have questions for us to ask about or if you want to ask us questions about the game, just preface it with questions so that it stands out in the chat, and I'll be sure to see it. But before we get started, there's a couple points of business that I would like to touch upon. The first is that there are partners and a sponsor. Partners are Jasper's Game Day and Initiative Coffee Company. If you type !Jasper or !Coffee, it will bring up the relevant information for both of those organizations or companies. Jasper is an organization that is trying to raise awareness about suicide and thus lead, hopefully, to suicide prevention. A fantastic charity. Do go check them out. Help if you can. A worthwhile cause, absolutely. Initiative Coffee Company is a coffee company that has coffee. I know you're surprised and shocked. I was. But they have an MTD roast, I believe, that you can purchase, and some of the proceeds from that go to Jasper's whenever you do that. So go check that out. There's also a sponsor, as I mentioned, and that is Talon & Claw. You can type !MTD Claw here. They are the fine makers of, well, I don't know if they're fine. Their products are fine. I'm sure they're fine. But their products are gorgeous. They make wooden RPG accessories, things like dice vaults. I think they have dice towers. I think they have dice towers as well. GM screens. This is going to be a long night. Words are difficult. So there you go. Yeah, so definitely go check them out. They're awesome people and they make awesome stuff. Speaking of awesome people, I'm going to throw things over to my players so that they can introduce themselves, plug anything that they would like to plug, tell you all where you can find them on the internet, etc., etc. Before I do that, I really probably should warn you, if foul language and immature humor are things that bother you, you probably want to go ahead and click off the video right now before I pass things over to my players, because, well, I'm just going to leave it at that. So, yeah, but if not, then welcome. Hang tight. Buckle up, Buttercup, because it's going to be a fun night. So I'm going to pass things over to Kaeryn. Hold on just a second. For some reason they say that they can't hear you, and I don't know why that is. Let me see here. I had one of my things that just updated. I might have this set wrong. Oh. Try talking again? Maybe. You're gonna have to do this entire thing in sign language. So I hope all of you brushed up. You know, it's not a game of mine unless something goes wonky with the tech. So let's see what's going on here. You know, the one thing that I can't test when I'm getting this all set up is naturally all of y'all's input. So let's try that. Somebody say something?
Something.
Does that work? Can we hear them now? Audience, is that good? Woohoo!
Yay!
Okay. Please, Kaeryn, start over.
So, what was I saying? I don't know. My name is Kaeryn, and also known as Myth and Gears. Don't really have a lot to say right now because it's pretty quiet on my channel, but hopefully we'll get something going in the fall. Keep you posted. Like I said, I didn't really have much to say. I'm really looking forward to talking about this game because it's been close to my heart, near and dear, and I love playing every moment of it. So to get to talk and reminisce about it, I'm looking forward to. So pass it back.
Fantastic. Yeah, hopefully everything is working now and I can not focus on any of that crap. Streaming is fun. I highly recommend all of you go out and do it. But yeah, have a stiff drink before you do it. Or not. So yeah, speaking of stiff drinks, my favorite person to segue to, Austin.
So, thank you, soft drink. I'm excited to be here. I will have to take off a little bit earlier than some of my compatriots here, so I'm just letting anyone know that now. But I am excited to be here, and I don't have a whole lot to say other as well. I had a ton of fun in this game. It was a blast to try to play two characters and do such a weird concept, that also one that felt so like contained. Like I've never played in a game that wasn't a one shot that had, or like a full campaign that was like so had an actual arc, and it felt like it was going somewhere the whole time. And your little long night rhyme at the beginning just popped into my head. I don't know if you're familiar with Ween, but all that popped into my head was you bring the razor blade, I'll bring the speed, take off your coat, it's going to be a long night. And so I'll just leave it there.
Well, all right then. That's a little stronger than a stiff drink, but hey, you do you. Whatever you need.
It's a song. I'm just going to put it out there, especially for any future employers, but also for anyone's knowledge. I am not a speed freak. I have no interest in amphetamines.
Mr. NSA.
I did Adderall like once in college to like play Skyrim all night, but that's different.
Oh my gosh. Mr. NSA, I don't like illicit narcotics. All right, fantastic. Next up, we have M.
Hi everyone, I'm M, and I run all the things, Twitch, YouTube, under Dice on Ice. We've just gotten back into Curse of Strahd every 2 weeks, where the characters find out if they're the bad guys, and spoiler, they are. And so, yeah, and thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to jump in, to talk about things, and to see what kind of shenanigans we can get up to. So, thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, can you do me a favor, M? Can you say reporting from the Great White North? Just real quick, just one time. No.
Alpha Bravo Hotel, this is the tower reporting live from the Great White North.
Fantastic. Take a point of inspiration. Maybe I'll give you a domain die. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Sorry that there was some kind of issue with the mic. Hopefully you don't have any trouble hearing us. Glad to have you here. All right, speaking of glad to have you here, last but certainly not least, Jackson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackson Johnson. I am reporting to you from the Great Wet South, Austin, Texas. I am also recording this from a potato, as I am currently moving. I will be moving back to my home state of Washington. So, a little bit in transition. My brain is fried, and I'm ready to answer some silly questions. I run Initiative Entertainment. We're a podcasting group. We have a podcast called Maelstrom. We just uploaded our 13th episode, and we'll be taking a break for this month because I am transitioning, moving. But come this August, we'll have our new mini campaign similar to this one. Not really, hopefully, but called The Quest for Dags. Who is Dags? Why is there a quest for him? What? Listen to our podcast and find out. Damn it. Thanks. My brain is fried. I'm really happy to be here. Let's get on it. Yeehaw.
Exactly. When in doubt, yeehaw. That's the best
I
way
need
to,
a stiff
to go
drink.
out.
We were talking about stiff drinks.
Well, get on it, sir. Get on it. Yeah. So, like I told everyone in our chat, I don't have a plan for this evening. I don't really know what's going on. I just work here temporarily. Today's my last day, so yeah, we're just gonna sit around and kind of chit chat about the game, maybe talk about kind of some of our favorite moments, things of that nature, take questions from any of you that might have them for us about the game, just kind of, yeah, shoot the shit. So I guess first and foremost, thank you all for playing in Convergence. It was Arrath is a world that I've wanted to do a live play game in for a long time, probably 3+ years, and it never really came about because it was such a difficult concept to wrap my head around. Trying to run 2 different groups at the same time and make the story still make sense and be fulfilling, and know that the players that we're going to be playing were both having a good time playing 2 different characters, and also were capable of creating 2 distinct characters from one another. But all of you did a fantastic job at doing exactly that, and it was a pleasure. So thank you very, very much for letting me run the game for all of you, and for agreeing to be a part of this weird, crazy experiment. You guys can talk now if you'd like.
Oh, is this where we say thank you for having us? Because that was awesome.
No, you don't have to say that.
Sam.
You can say,
You're
"Fuck
welcome,
you,
Jeremy.
Yeah.
You're welcome for my presence. It is
It
a gift, and I decided to bestow it upon you, and
That's
I
fair.
don't regret a second of it.
You
No,
know,
I had such a
Oh,
go for it.
No, go for it. I was gonna make.
I had such a blast in this game. How long have you been working on Arrath? Because it seemed like you've had this one kicking around for a while.
Yeah, so I don't know actual years, but it's been in the working for probably close to a decade. It actually started out as kind of a thing between a friend of mine and myself, where like we found out that we could access a chat through Gmail during the workday. So we were chatting back and forth and things, and we were like, well, what are we going to do? Like, we can sit here and talk to each other all day long. And we found out that you could roll dice through it with a coding entry. So we're like, oh, we should play a role-playing game. So we sat down and we started designing a world. And the idea was that he would design half of it and I would design the other. And we would each run a character in the other, in the half that we were planning for the other one. So we started doing that, and it was just text-based and stuff, and it was a lot of fun, but it very quickly kind of petered out, and we lost contact with each other, and eventually I just couldn't let go of the notion of the world, and asked him if I could just take it on as my own intellectual property, if you will, and he said yes. So I started developing the world from there.
Was the sand half of the world, like the hot half, your half to begin with?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Why?
that
Just
felt-
out
that
of
feels
curiosity,
right.
why is that? Why does that check out?
I feel like it's the Dune influence just feels right for you. Like
For
that
sure.
that I don't know, it rings true.
There's more of like a Gonzo kind of like Dark Sun feel to the hot side.
Mhm.
10th aura. I could definitely see that. A bit of like Conan too. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely felt more like the savage desert world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the whole notion of the world having two halves was actually born from a mini series that I watched a long, long time ago when it came out on television called White Dwarf. It had Ray Liotta, I believe, in it. It was like a TV miniseries, and it was about a world that was tidally locked. Like it had a side that was completely dark and a side that was completely light all of the time. And that notion kind of had always stuck with me until I sat down with this friend of mine and started talking about how we were going to do a world where two of us could run a game at the same time. And that was the idea that I decided to kind of attach to the world of Arrath. So, yeah, good stuff. It's a terrible movie, by the way. Very, very dated. Bad special effects. And Ray Liotta... He's not playing a monster,
Legend.
so
Classic.
He's good.
Oscar, all-time great.
His best performance, Muppets from Space, without a doubt. Okay, so we have a couple of questions that are rolling in from people. Cole has asked, does the mist stay misty after the finish of this campaign, or is there now crossover between the two lands? The intention was that there will now be the capability of crossing between the two hemispheres, that the weather and the geography and things will start to balance out now that the planet is essentially rotating, and it will lead to extreme chaos and clashing of cultures, and I'm sure all kinds of fighting, but the good stuff for role-playing games. So absolutely, it would not be misty anymore.
So like would the mist disperse, or
yeah, essentially.
And so like all the
clouds and
the monsters would just run around.
Oh yes,
That's
exactly
what I was thinking.
Yep.
Yikes. Jinkies gang.
Yeah, so I liked the idea because now Arrath has two distinct eras that you can play in, with like a clearly defined moment that era transitions from one thing to another. So you could play pre-spin or whatever you want to call it, where the world's still divided and all of that kind of stuff, or you could play after spin, where everything is just in complete chaos and mayhem. Pre-convergence. There you go. PC.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that.
Let's keep it
Just
PC, guys.
Be able
Anytime
to
you want to
have
play
like
an Arrath game, do we want to keep it PC? Or, sorry.
No, let the monsters run wild.
Oh, yeah. Again, that's what an RPG world needs, is terrifying things that are happening that adventurers can go take care of. So...
Does that mean we can all be like villains down the line?
That would be awesome. And bring your monstrous...
We become the great beasts that must be slain.
Exactly. Absolutely. Okay, so another question from Cole is, what was everyone's most surprising moment during the campaign for each side?
It was the ice ball coming through for me.
Oh
yeah. That was amazing. Like I had no, and on the hot side, just seeing like this child, this baby pulling like impossible magic out. Like I kind of like, I had some ideas where it might be going as we started going, but I didn't think that was gonna happen. That was incredible.
When you first described a snowball hitting the back of my head as Thabanon, I was like, what? Like, there's sort of like some sort of goop substance that got thrown at Thabanon? Are we under attack? Like, I was legitimately worried. And then when we found out it was like straight up snow, that was incredible.
Good.
I think it was so cool. I loved the city of the dead, where they're just hanging out. They're just thriving in the city, and like having their own currency and everything like that. I could totally imagine that being in the city of the dead would be like a hot commodity now that the convergence happened, because there's no monsters there, and so it would be. But I really loved how you did that, where like, yeah, it felt like to me that death wasn't super scary. It was just casual people just continuing their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always liked the idea of like a traditional necropolis, where it's, a virtual city of undead, just people, being undead, being creepy and rotten and gross. And but I started thinking about how I wanted to do it for this. And I was like, I don't want it to be like a spooky, scary place, because like they can't even really conceive of something that dark, something that, well, it's gothic for one. It's a very, very gothic feel, and I wanted something that was distinctly different. And I was like, I think it would just be like cool to have it be a paradise, just like this place where there is no concern and worry anymore, because these people are constantly having to be worried and concerned, the entire time that they're alive. So their heaven, their afterlife, the ideal afterlife would be this place where you don't have to worry about anything ever again. So it's a place I'd like to go.
And also like the abundance of quote unquote resources in the area.
Exactly. Yep.
Like a packed city, almost kind of cosmopolitan and modern in a sense, but it's like everyone's dead, so we don't have to worry about like space or food or whatever. It's just, we could just make cool, like, spirits have been here for like however long people have been dying in Arrath, so like it'd be like they just build this beautiful city and just chill out. But now I'm curious, what would the Hetust heaven be?
Well, they have Valsgavok, which is the Valhalla analog. So if you're, a warrior, which most of the people that live on that side come from a warrior type culture. So, their ideal would be to go to the, the mead hall and drink and fight forever.
Yes!
But they also have a bad thing that can happen. There's I cannot remember the name of him now, which makes me very sad, but there's essentially a ghost ship that sails around the seas on Hetust, and they pick up the cowardly when they die, and they press gang your soul into serving on the ship. So
Davy Jones?
Not I mean, it was very similar, yes. But to be fair, it came out. I came up with the idea before this movie came out. But yeah, when Davy Jones came out, I was like, oh, I know this. But I think
Disney
it's actually yes,
royalty.
Exactly. I expect my paycheck any day now. I think it's actually, if I'm remembering right, I think I actually did base it on a bit of mythology from Nordic culture, from recalling correctly, but who knows? It's a mess up here. I don't remember necessarily how things got there. You're talking about naming things from words or names that you'd heard recently without realizing that you were doing it. Same thing. Cool. Anybody else had any other surprising moments they wanted to discuss?
Well, I have to say that I think my most surprising moment was the second time we actually appeared back in one of the worlds. So it would have been in Tenthara, and the baby became a toddler and was aging super quick. That was like a twist I was completely not expecting. I was expecting to have to take care of a baby the entire way. So
yeah, your role was actually going to be played by Steve Guttenberg at first, but he turned us down. So I'm kidding. That was a deep cut. I apologize to everybody who was born after like 95. So yeah. Um, yeah, I don't even know what it was that made me think of that. But I knew that I wanted the two of them to be linked to one another, soulbound or whatever you want to call it. But I'd hit on the idea of dyadic elements, elements that are not mirror opposites of one another, but they're inexplicably tied together, two sides of the same coin kind of thing. Kylo Ren and Rey, that kind of relationship. And whenever I knew that I wanted an oracle to be a part of it, a prophetic seer, it kind of just felt natural to go the complete opposite direction. One was female, the other was male. One was very obviously kind of Tanthara, origins. The other one very much of Hetust origins. And if I'm going to do that, then why not just go full hog and have one of them be, a naive little baby to counterbalance this, very old, wise oracle. So, yeah.
I felt very bad for Yuma in comparison to Sanafret, where I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
she got like a whole life, and he's like, and I'm old. 1 week. He just like Robin Williams and Jack.
You got the
like,
short
I'm old
straw.
young.
Yeah.
Was the aging like relative to how close we were to the mists? Would it be like if we had just like stayed there, Yuma would have just like plopped dead if we had like taken too long? Or
I based it on time just so that I could try to maintain a sense of consistency. So basically they aged 12 years every day. Every day. So about a year every 2 hours, give or take. So obviously we're not keeping track of time that deliberately, but that was my rough estimate to kind of go on just for gauging how much time has passed and all that kind of stuff, how to describe it. But there's something else I was going to say about that. I don't remember.
if we're talking about surprises, I'd say that one of the bigger surprises was how wholesome the Hetust side turned out. Especially in relation to Tanthara, literally night and day, if you would. Whereas like everyone in Tanthara, we started out like super dramatic, and we're like, all right, here we go. And it felt like that was I don't know how the rest of you felt, but it felt like the Tanthara side was like when we were all like, all right, we're going to make these really intense characters. Then Hetust was like, I'll make this character, except Yuka, who was very angsty, who brought all the angst for that. Kaeryn did the old switcheroo.
I did the switcheroo, yeah.
Yeah, but even then, like, as opposed to like on Tanthara, where everyone was just brooding and just like tired of each other's crap, it felt like on Hetust, when Yuka had like her super angsty moments, everyone was just there for her and like was like, hey, let's talk this out. Like, man, you've really got some you've got some anger issues. You want to figure that out? Like, let's help find your sister. Like, the vibe was totally different, which was awesome, but it was very that was a big surprise. And I think once the tone was set like that, I think that kind of switched gears for us entirely.
That was one of the really fun things to watch, was how easily all of you kind of slid into making things diametrically opposed to one another, without it feeling forced or put upon you to do so. It just kind of felt like a natural thing to have happen. And I think because everybody decided to push that my characters are opposites of one another somehow, I think that all of you embraced that a lot, and it came through in the way that you all acted together as a group, even the way that your party congealed, which was amazing. Cool. We have another question, also from Cole. What was the inspiration of the setting where they were all beneath the ice? Oh, okay. So on Hetust, where you fought the giants underneath the ruins of the boats and things, I believe is what she's talking about. That was based on a picture. Typically, I use a lot of art in my games. I am a big fan of fantasy and sci-fi art. I cruise art sites a lot, and I find a lot of inspiration from them. I use a lot of them in my game normally, yeah. So it was a really cool picture I found from, I think it was Magic the Gathering or something, and it showed these two frost giant looking dudes underneath the ceiling of ice that have boats kind of frozen into the ice, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. It was, a body of water that then drained and left this empty cavity. That's a badass place for a fight. So there you go. That's about it. Nothing complicated.
It looks super cool. He showed it to us, and it was pretty dope.
I love art like that. Art that just immediately starts the gears in your mind turning. That just instantly starts to generate a story, a narrative, just based on what's pictured. I'm very much drawn to that style of art. Okay. Acer Sen asks, what character surprised you the most? What did they do that shocked you?
Oh, I'm going to start this one. Old Hodge. Right from the get-go, that character just blew my mind. And I think the most shocking thing was all of a sudden when they started pulling out the beans and spreading the love. Chef
He was
kiss.
here for a good time. Yeah. Mark me down as surprised too. I just had in my mind, old yak. Let's see where that goes. And I was kind of like, oh, maybe a little bit of Gandalf. And then it just got super sassy, super quick. Hodge was kind of a case of she just wrote herself pretty much. Like, it wasn't me playing Hodge, it's she played me, if you will. And it was great.
I was definitely gonna second that was also my most surprising character. Like when the sass started is exactly where the surprise began for me. Like, wait, what? Oh, she gonna say that? All right.
She
And,
really did.
She did not take any shit.
No, I think she was just like, I love like the archetype of like the old people. Also, because like I know a few older people who like they've lived long enough to where they don't care, and they won't like the the weird dance we do in society of like not really saying what we mean. A lot of like older people I know just like will straight up just say what's on their mind without really caring what anyone thinks about it, and for good or ill. But it's very fun, and I kind of wanted to capture that, and then it just sort of wrote itself. Telling Ceci's sister to go fuck herself after I said I lied about reading the stars on your marriage. That was a treat for me. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, when you said you wanted to play an old Dreenak druid, I was like, okay, cool. That sounds great. I think I was expecting a little more Betty White and not Estelle Getty, but it was a really nice surprise. Because I think it broke the trope in my mind, and it was a lot of fun to play against for sure.
Oh yeah, it was definitely fun. I'll say I'll pass the buck. I'll say a character thing that surprised me was Yuka and Ceci turning out to be sisters. That was a big holy smokes for me.
Well, it was holy smokes for us too, not gonna lie.
I had like a sneaking suspicion, like at the beginning, because I think Jeremy had dropped that like that Yuka's sister was like a follower of
Yeah, as soon as he said the priestess, and I was like, wait a second
like,
here.
wait a minute. But then I was like, oh no, probably not. Yeah, no, that was so good.
Yeah, one of the things that Kaeryn gave me for Yuka was that she had a sibling that she didn't know anything about. I I was like, okay, that's really cool. That's really interesting. That's a really solid character moment at some point, further in the game. And then it started coming down to, okay, I need them to go to the Temple of Volstana, and I know that M's character is going to have reservations about that because of the complicated history that they had. So I was like, I need a reason. I need somebody to really, really want to go there. And I was like, okay. I'll drop the information that Yuka's sister was once a priestess of this temple, and I know Kaeryn. I play with Kaeryn a lot, so I knew that would definitely set the hook deep and get a good pull. So yeah. And then whenever I found out, I was like, I'll just make them both sisters. That'll be fun.
I have a question for you, Jeremy.
Mhm.
What, and I'm not asking necessarily for which one's your favorite, but which one just sticks out in your mind of when you read through the questionnaires that we had returned for the first time, what stuck out to you as an immediate, what's a couple others that were oh, I'm gonna use that, or oh, I'm excited to see what I can do with that?
So definitely Ceci being blind and why. That was a big one. The fact that this group of priestesses, deliberately blinds themselves so that they're not able to read the threads of fate. That was instantly something that I was like, that definitely has to be a feature somewhere. The part about Wodo not being raised by giants, but being a giant, and Ceci not being a giant, but raised by giants. I was like, there's got to be some kind of correlation that comes together through all of that. What else? Obviously the Thabanon having basically a love affair with the princess of the Elven tribe. That's definitely good gaming fodder that jumped out. The fact that Darshepsa carried a Dreadsteel mace, for sure. I knew I wanted that highlighted. That's a big part of Arrath, and I wanted that to have a showcase within the game. The whole thing about Treshar encountering something near the edge of the gray, some kind of dark monster that tried to eat him, as well as what happened with his family. And then also old Hodge's stuff with the Star Eater, also kind of correlating to one another. Yeah, that's all the ones that I can pull off the top of my head, at least. There was a bunch, and when I first kind of started getting ready for the campaign, I printed out the forms that you guys had completed for me, and laid them all out on my table. With Tanthara on one side and Hetust on the other, and I got colored post-it notes. I got orange ones and blue ones, and I sat down and I just started pulling out anything that jumped out from the information that you all gave me, and putting post-it notes where things started to correlate and combine. The stuff with the symbol, the mountain peak with the crescent moon over its peak, stuff like that, and looking for ways where I could tie it to other things, or work it in to the other elements that people had already mentioned. So there was a lot of really good information that all of you gave me, and that gave me a lot of material to work with. So yeah, piggybacking on that question, for those of you who haven't done that before, what were your thoughts about the extensive homework up front, the PC connections and NPC connections and secrets and all that kind of stuff?
I honestly prefer it. It kind of forces me to really look deeper. I think with those questions, I think some of my characters would never have been who they were without those questions that have come in. And it kind of forces you to take a look at them from a perspective that, from an outside perspective, and it also forces you to tailor them in a way that is conducive to the story. So instead of just like, well, Ceci, grew up and her favorite color was turquoise, like that, just having all of this like superfluous information can be good in some cases, but I love having the questions so that you can really frame their mindset of like, okay, what's going to be important and what's going to come out for this character in the campaign. I think it really sets that tone from the DM and the player as well.
Yeah, it gives me a platform to start building off of, a foundation, because I can start planting seeds of ideas and kind of pulling specific information that I'm looking for out of you as a player for a specific character. Like you said, tailored information. It's helpful because for me as a player, whenever I do this kind of thing, it's helpful because it gives me a springboard for understanding how my character is going to react to some kinds of environments and encounters, because the ones that are mentioned in the questions or having the PC connections, I now kind of get an idea as to who they might be, the way they might act in a specific situation. So if I know that they've murdered someone in the past, in cold-blooded murder, and nobody knows about it, that informs a part of the character's personality for me. And if I'm ever confronted with having to kill someone and hide the body or something in the scope of the campaign, I know that my character has done that before, so they probably are not going to be nervous or worried. They're probably going to be very meticulous and just go to task. And these kinds of questions and this kind of information gives me a starting point as a player for kind of understanding who my character might be.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed filling them out. I mean, it's not my first rodeo, this one, but to spring back off of M's, like, it really helps me get to know the character. So it's not just a two-dimensional stats on a page. It's actually a person, a personality. And I love that. And I've also come to love that I will put little juicy tidbits that I don't even know what mean, just so that there's something there that will make my character's life miserable later, because honestly, that's makes for good game.
Yeah, especially epic fantasy stories. Like there is no triumph if there's not suffering before it. The hero's journey kind of thing. And I love whenever people give me real big juicy bites whenever they fill out their questionnaires or their secrets or what have you, because it's an invitation to fuck with someone. They're literally telling you how they want to be screwed over, and all you have to do is just say, okay, now I'm going to take that thing that you told me was very special to you and I'm going to twist it. And when you do that, like, it guarantees a player's investment. Immediately, they're going to be emotionally involved, whether they want to or not, even if it's just a, hey, why are you doing that? But good players, such as all of you, take it and run with it. You embrace it. And that's the kind of thing I really like to lean into as a DM.
Heard of the knife, the DM knives thing?
Mm-mm.
You ever heard of that?
No.
It's basically what you just said, but it's like, I've played with DMs who are like, all right, I would like at least 3 knives from you. And what that means is they're like, you make a thing from your backstory that your DM can just pull out at any point and just stab you with them. So it's like, I'd like a knife, please. And you're like, here's a knife, please stab me whenever, emotionally. So yeah, it's basically that.
Yeah, you know the phrase, like, they'll hang themselves with their own rope. Like, that's very much the case with RPG players most of the time. They will gladly give you what you need to cause their character strife and conflict.
Yeah, there's a reason that happily ever after comes at the end of the story, not the beginning. Like
You got to earn that happy ending, my friend.
be a very boring story.
It's very true. Yeah, my home group and I, we always joke about how, like, adventurers that actually had common sense would pull off their first job and then they would retire, because the money that you get from the treasure from your first job is more than commoners make in an entire lifetime, and you would never have to work again. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah, I think a friend of mine once said, like, you need, like, being an adventurer inherently requires the character to be messed up in some way, because you have to be some sort of crazy to do this, like, professionally as you're. Yeah,
absolutely. To constantly be putting yourself in harm's way.
Like, if you want to be a murder hobo, you can't really be like a normal, well-adjusted person. Like, there's an inherent crazy you need to have in order to be a hero, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like, if you look at almost any story, if you really kind of stop and examine the protagonist, usually there's something a little off about them. You know, at the very least, in like survival movies or movies where, you know, like a John McClane type, you have to be a little paranoid, because when you hear the first noise, you gotta go. Because if you stick around for the second noise, it's already too late. You know, that's when they fill the house with bullets and you're already dead. But if you had snuck out the basement when you heard the first noise, that's how you become a movie hero. So it kind of has to be the same way with RPG characters. They have to be a little off-centered. Excellent. Okay, we have another question. This one is for all of you. This is from Acersin. Did the players have a difficult time switching the brain space / personalities of the two characters? And an addendum that Cole adds is, was it easier or harder in the finale?
Way harder in the finale.
Yeah, harder in the finale.
Yeah, definitely harder in the finale. I mean, during the other ones, we had the time to prep, kind of get into the other character. We had that downtime between games. But in the finale, it was like moments. Just, okay, now we have to be this one. Yeah. I'm glad the finale was at the end, if that makes sense, because by that time we'd already know our characters a little bit. So it was a little bit more easy to transition towards the end, but
in my experience, finales that happen at the beginning don't work out very well, typically.
Yeah, they're over too quick.
Unless it's the end of the beginning.
Somebody should name something that.
Yeah, right?
Maybe twice.
Yeah.
Two different things.
Everyone should use that title. I would say the hardest was, and it was so fun, but it was so hard when we got to, like, describe our characters meeting each other.
Yes.
Like, trying to figure out what the hell would they say? How would I want to construct this? And what snazzy one-liner can I end this on? Like, how do we make this work? That was probably the biggest thing. It's kind of like the case of when you're like the DM and you have to, like, talk to yourself because you're playing different characters in, like, a meeting scene. It's like that, but somehow way harder, because each character, it's easier and harder because each character was way more realized, but we were hopping between them at the time. So we were like, what personality thing do I bring up in this meeting? It was just, that was crazy, but it was good crazy.
Yeah, it's easier to, like, hop in quickly to a very flat personality where you're like, yeah, this guy likes money, this guy likes cheese, and then they're like, that's their thing, and then you can, like, hop back and be like, do you have the money? yeah, if you got the cheese, like you can do that whole conversation very easily. But if you're like, well, this person has some very complex feelings about like their family, and they're like, they're meeting a new person. Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
to it.
The
The voices is still the hard part.
Yeah, the big thing, yeah, I like voices, and like the fact that this is such a monumental moment for each character that we were portraying, and we had to trying to figure out how would they react to this in real time as we were playing both of them at the same time. That was crazy. But again, good crazy.
There's this skit that was done on SNL with Ian McKellen. It's him by himself. He's in what looks almost like a puppet box. It's just like a little 3-sided box that has a window on the front. And he's in a chair in this little booth. And he performs, I don't know, 24 different characters within the span of like 5 to 10 minutes. And just like ducks down, puts on a new wig, and comes up and is in a completely different character. And has a conversation, and then turns around and puts a veil over his face, and turns around and delivers, in a completely different character. Watching it is astounding. The amount of control and just craft that he exhibits in that one skit is, it's mesmerizing for sure. Almost like watching James McAvoy in Split. It's just unbelievable. The drop of a hat
Hey,
is
folks,
completely different.
I gotta take off now.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Thank you, Austin. It was fantastic to have you, man. I hope you have a pleasant rest of your evening.
I will,
see
and
you
I just
soon.
want to say, also, if you're a fan of hopping characters, look up Andy Daly's episodes of the podcast Comedy Bang Bang. A lot of them, he ends up hopping into like 5 or 6 of these characters he's played for like 10 years now, and it's always incredible when he's like with literally like a second, like having a conversation with him, like, oh yes, this is like doing like this very like stereotypical German voice, but then like, well, he's also doing immediately hopping into the cowboy. But anyway, just want to say good stuff. But y'all have a you all
Excellent.
have a fantastic evening. It was great playing this game with you, and it was great getting to chat with y'all one more time in this one particular circumstance. I'm sure I'll chat with you all again soon. Jackson, hit me up when you get to Washington. I'm in Tacoma, like not far from Seattle, so like let's game sometime, obviously. Anyway, I will chat with you all later.
Adorable. Bye, Austin.
Bye.
All right, I'm gonna get things
Oh my
switched
God.
over. Yeah, you guys fill dead airspace for me for a bit here. I'll get this all. While I get you all diced up. Clowns. What are you doing? Okay, I just caught a peek of Jackson's mustache in that one.
There you go. I got you.
Just the mustache.
Have y'all seen Gundam by chance? This is
I have
random to. Okay, I'll have to wait till if Matt gets on, because I gotta ask him, like, because I just saw the original Gundam trilogy, because they just released a bunch of them on Netflix. Very sad. Like extraordinarily depressing stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am very excited because at the end of this month, the new Masters of the Universe cartoon drops. I'm really cautiously optimistic about that. Don't know if I should be, but there it is.
Well, when I return to the Evergreen State, I will be sure to very much enjoy that show.
Uh-huh. Speaking of Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
What am I doing? Who's running this? What is going on here?
I'll actually be right back because they're making ribs downstairs, and I'm gonna lose my mind if I don't eat those ribs right now.
Go for it.
Right back.
All
Jealous.
right. Jealous, yeah, no kidding.
Super jealous. I'm trying to figure out now how he can, I don't know, dematerialize them and shove them through the computer so we can have some too.
Sadly, we're not there yet.
No, but why not? It's ribs.
We should have the technology by now. This is ridiculous.
Completely
Absolutely.
unacceptable.
What are we doing with our time? Honestly.
I don't know. Nothing good.
Wait, don't you work for the government up there?
Little do you know, we're actually looking into that technology right now.
The Canadians will figure it out first. That's for sure.
It's just so that we can, pass along our Timmies quickly.
Without it getting cold first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna laugh and pretend like I know what that means. He.
The Canadians have taken over the stream.
Yes.
Was that one of the things that you guys brought to AtCon?
Timmy?
One of the snacks?
No.
No.
Oh.
Do you guys have Tim Hortons?
Oh, okay. I've heard of it, but we don't have it down here.
Oh.
There's a lot of crafters on YouTube that make stuff out of their coffee cups and things like that for some weird reason. Yep, that was my reaction. That explains nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, all right. I don't know why.
I watch people make stuff out of trash. What can I say? Here's a spicy question. Cole asks, what was each of your biggest regrets about this game? You can't say playing. That doesn't count.
It was too short.
Yeah. There were definitely, I have to agree, there were definitely lots of moments that I still wanted to happen. My biggest regret was missing a session because I really wanted that that interaction with Ceci and Matt's character to happen.
Wodo.
Yeah.
Wodo, I really wanted them to have a conversation, and with scheduling and stuff, it just didn't happen. So
Yeah,
that's actually one of my biggest regrets too, because I was from the get-go with that whole he's a giant raised by non-giants, you're non-giant raised by giants. I knew there was going to be something, and then it was just never worked out. Like, you were there one day and then and he wasn't, and then when he was, you weren't, and it was just like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something I missed seeing in the game.
Was there going to be something for Wodo had Matt been able to make it to the temple session? I'm wondering what that would have been.
Yeah, so not at the temple itself, but essentially if you had explored around underneath the ice a bit more, he would have discovered some more about his background and his heritage and things. I didn't go through the motions of planning out what that was because I knew that he wasn't going to be able to make it before I started prepping material for the session. So I just basically had the entry, if you will, the bullet point of, Wodo finds out stuff about, his parentage or whatever, and that just never got fleshed out, sadly. But it is what it is. It happens. Uh-oh. Yes. I will move you, Kaeryn. That's my job as a storyteller. Or as a producer. Really? Really? You, of all people? You're going to groan about jokes? Jackson?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Use a domain die. Then
We
you can
don't
do
have
fun.
we don't have proof.
Speaking of biggest regrets, that's it right there. The puns. No, I'm kidding. I love
They got
puns.
pretty bad. They got pretty bad.
They were bad.
Oh,
Mostly thanks to me and Kaeryn.
You hear he's going to drag you under the bus
why
like
are you
that?
throwing me under the bus like that?
I'm bringing you down with me, Kaeryn. No, it was back and forth between you and me, mostly in the group chat. It was like ice pun after ice pun. It was not great.
Oh, we were on the top of our game there, I tell you. We just about got kicked out of the group chat.
Pretty much. I think everyone just muted us.
Oh. He was still blocked to this day. I'm just kidding. Cool. So, how are those ribs, Jackson?
Delicious.
Good.
They are right here, and I have them. And it's protein that'll just keep me going.
Wonderful.
Now I can now answer coherent questions. I need a few more.
Are you
bites of
sure?
this. I might need a few more.
That's
I
fair.
might need a few more.
Oh,
It's a work in
man.
progress.
So yeah, while you're progressing on those ribs, did you have a big regret about the game? Just, while you're chewing.
That it's over. I miss it.
Yeah.
I
Me
mean,
too.
I say the only regret I would have is I wish Thabanon could have talked to people more just a little bit, but
Hmm.
he had a bunch of great moments with oh my god, his blood
Okex.
brother whose name's Okex. Yeah, I honestly most of the game 100% I was just totally invested in. It was fun. It was really fun. I'd say maybe the only regret I had was the scene where Hodge and Thabanon talked. Could have been smoother because I was kind of going seat in my pants. But other than that, no, it really felt like everything clicked. And I think that's what made this game really special for us was everything just was fitting together one after the other, piece after piece. We were all supporting each other. The roleplay was just natural. And the way it concluded, while kind of sad, was also kind of beautiful. And it all just kind of came together really wonderfully. So I'd say no regrets for me.
No regrets. That's good. No regrets. Tattoo it. Yeah. I knew starting out that it was going to be a short campaign. That's what I agreed to with Jake whenever he asked me to run it. Because I have another campaign that I actually kind of put on hold. That was supposed to start at the beginning of this year. After my last campaign, Momentum, Whispers and Fragments had wrapped up. So I kind of needed something to go between. And I knew I didn't want to run a long-term campaign and put that one off for that long. So when I decided to run this in particular, and I knew it was going to be two stories kind of combined, I thought that keeping it short would be better. So that it didn't drag out too long, and the point of the story, which is the coming together of these two sides, that we could kind of get to that point in a much faster way.
There was a really cool sense of urgency playing throughout most of the game, having that set limit of not only is it we have a set limit of just games, we have a set amount of games where we're playing a specific character on either side. So it really felt and it wasn't like a pressure or anything, but it really felt like every episode mattered in terms of what we got done, what discoveries were made, what arcs were progressed. It really felt like we had to make use of our time. And also, it's really nice just to play a short mini arc as opposed to being in long-term campaigns that never end and usually just fizzle out. It's really nice to just have a set amount of episodes to be all right, we're going to play this long and we get that done. And it was nice because we had a set ending, which was go to the gray. And the build up to it was always awesome. And the payoff was insane and wonderful.
Yeah. When I knew that it was going to be relatively short and essentially, just two separate stories again that were going to come together, I decided that it would be best to just kind of basically stick to the 3-act structure and just have a beginning, a middle, and an end for each side. Have them connected where I could manage to do so, and then have the final episode be all about them coming together, tying up the loose ends for both, and then making them meet. So yeah, cool. Cole has another question. What was the thing you most wanted to explore that you didn't get a chance to?
Oh, there's so many actually, because the characters were so great. It would have there's so many character interactions that would have been nice to been able to explore and see more of. Time was a thing though, so you had to pick and choose the moments where like I really need to show this, and we'll show this as best as we can in this moment. I know I would have loved to see more between Thabanon and say Mateo, but I think that's wrong.
Matto?
Matto.
Yeah.
Matto. I wanted, more
Yeah.
of that kind of play. I know I really like Darshepsa and why are her names so hard right now?
I feel you.
Austin's elf.
Treshar?
Treshar, thank you.
No, that's the dwarf.
No, not the Treshar.
Oh, wait.
The other one.
Sarath.
Sarath, thank you.
So many names.
Okay, that was hardest about the finale is because
Yeah.
at least with
yes,
the other
there
sections we
go.
had the names for each one, but then when both of them was like, oh, I have to remember your name for both of them. Yeah, I would have loved to play out their relationship a little bit because they were two very kind of cold people, very emotionally reserved, and so it was hard to bring out what their backstory was. And we didn't get to play with Wodo as much as I would have loved, just due to scheduling and happens, because that would have been really cool because there was so much there as well that we didn't really get to explore, and I would have loved to have done that.
Yeah, I agree with Kaeryn. I would have loved to see, because I thought the dynamic between Matto and Thabanon was super cool, interesting, because Matto's done these horrible things but has such a love for his tribe, and then Thabanon didn't, and like it would have been so cool to explore like why that is, like why Thabanon, like you glossed over it a little bit, but really going into like the culture of the tribes.
Yeah.
And that kind of how they react to people, like that would have been very interesting.
Yeah, especially like after Matto, like the discovery of what Matto did to his brother.
Yeah.
Like I think I had in mind of Thabanon walking up to Matto and being like, "You and I are gonna have a talk, Mister. See, you're nothing but this is you. Screw you." But then like I think I got, but then like the dole came in and I was like, "Oh, hang on, priorities. We gotta do it. Big snack. There's a big snack outside. We gotta take care of it." But yeah, no, I think Matto and Thabanon had a very interesting animosity between them, but there was like a sense of like respect, I think, between them that was really cool, that could have been explored. But I think just like the time. But I think what we did get out, especially like in the first 2 episodes, was really, really something special. Like that sort of soap opera-esque confrontation between Matto, Thabanon, and Absine in the wedding tent. That was
That was lovely. It was
so
lovely.
good.
I just sat back and ate popcorn.
Same. Like that first session. The first session is always kind of difficult. Everybody's kind of not exactly sure yet exactly where their place is in the dynamic of the group, both as a player and as a character, and how people are going to respond to certain kinds of challenges or humor. But all of you just fell right into step with what was going on and with one another's characters, and you developed an immediate rapport with each other. Not necessarily a positive rapport between the characters, but that's great. That's perfect. And you fell right into step with one another, and that was really fun to watch. Yeah. Okay. as for a thing that I wanted to explore and didn't get the chance, more of the setting, because I think there's a lot of really fun stuff in Arrath. I know I'm definitely biased, but there's a lot of cool stuff about the setting that I couldn't show, again, because of just sheer time. And yeah, it would be fun to go back and explore more of the world, for sure.
I'd love
Let's
to do
see.
some like post-convergence, pre-convergence stuff. Like the amount of world building that is possible in Arrath is so cool. And like we explored like a fraction of what the worlds were, because like the benefit for like the cost and the other thing, the positive one, the pros and the cons were like we really didn't explore like in our journeys. We were kind of in like the wastes because we were like going to the mist. So there wasn't like a lot of outside to explore besides like the specific like scenes and events you had planned out. But the benefit to that was it really narrowed the focus to the character interaction, which I think is what really brought the game to life, was the fact that we knew we were on this journey and we would encounter whatever Jeremy was going to throw at us. But in the meantime, let's freaking nail these characters. Let's iron some meat out. Let's freaking talk about stuff, man. Let's figure things out. Like that was the fun for us, I think. So well worth it, I'd say.
Yeah. For what it is worth, I hope they didn't iron those ribs that you're eating. That would be a terrible way to cook ribs.
You know what? I'll take ironed ribs at this point. Like I am
Nice and straight, no wrinkles, no starch.
nothing. Smooth, like my brain. Smooth.
Oh man. Yeah, I think again, like Jackson said, that the big draw for this game was definitely the way that the characters interacted with one another. That dance of the ones that get along kind of clicking together, and the ones that didn't having their moments of kind of bickering. It was really, really cool. Dabanon and Okex, like that's a very warm and fuzzy kind of relationship. I love that kind of stuff. The bonds of
Making
brotherhood.
weird clicking sounds with
Yeah.
Matt was pretty great. That was
Yep.
that was some voice acting gold right there.
And the whole thing that he ended up coming up with, where you walk, I walk, and
Oh my god!
how that ended up kind of coming around full circle.
So
and
touching.
Every
Oh,
time
that was
he
beautiful.
busted that out, man, it was like fucking tears, dude.
Yeah, it was like insta tear.
Mm-hmm. He
So
was the
good.
Chewy. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, there's just so many good moments that came from just real organic, honest, just kind of exploring the relationship between the characters, that had nothing to do with what else was going on in the actual journey, which is really cool. Yep. The moment with Ceci in the blanket and Yuka finding out that they were siblings, but the way that happened with the blanket hanging on the tree and
Ceci coughing up the hair. That was gross.
Ooh, yeah.
That was that was nasty.
Yeah, you can thank M for that one.
What? Wait, wait, explain. What?
I put that in my answers to some of my questions. Like Ceci is just coughing up blood and hair every so often, and she's not sure why.
Oh no. And then it was like Mato was just losing hair every now and then. Like, that's messed up.
RPG players, man, they will give you the worst stuff to mess with their characters.
So specific. Blood and hair. That's like
I just thought of something really gross that you would just not like the texture of in your mouth.
That's definitely up there on that list.
That's some like Japanese horror movie shit.
That,
Oh,
that's the thing
nasty.
about it, though. Is it that feels to me like Grimm's fairy tale stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you read in those old fairy tales, where they were actually trying to scare the shit out of children, not entertain them and sell lunchboxes. So I like that kind of stuff. I eat that kind of stuff up with a spoon. That was a bad.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Do you
hope not.
really? 'Cause
Yeah,
the texture we
I
didn't
realized
really
that
want to
when
go
when it
with.
was coming out of
Yep.
my mouth.
You know,
Well,
not
just
the
like
first
came out
time
of
I've used
Ceci's mouth.
hair.
No.
Not the first time I've used hair in a gross sense, which is interesting.
I think
Maybe
it's
that
like
says something.
So
Well,
Jake
yeah,
has
maybe.
a hand fetish.
Yeah.
You have a hair
Ugh.
fetish.
Ah, ew. That content warning you gave at the beginning, Jeremy, is really coming.
I told you. You can't take
I
these
think
people
there's-
anywhere.
I think there's something about hair in the sense of like it always exists, if that makes sense. Like it's fundamentally dead, and even if like if you cut off hair, it'll stay that hair. It won't like change. So like you can like there's something just wrong about that. Like it's dead because it's dead hair follicles, but like it's unchanging in that it's like real life undeath. If that makes sense. It's just if you really examine hair, it's kind of messed up.
Everyone's gonna go home and shave their heads now.
Yeah.
Yeah, shave
Yeah,
your
it's a
head
movement.
So glad I got rid of all mine.
and mail it to M.
I'll take it.
She'll take it.
Oh, gross.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like again, what black magic or witch type stuff with their making spells and all that kind of stuff, when does that not involve hair? That's almost always something you see done in depictions of dark magic and the misunderstood, the mystical. And I thought that it definitely lent itself to that. Because I mean, if all of a sudden you just start hacking up bloody hairballs, I mean, that would probably become an omen. I would think it would be the kind of thing that I would worry that there was something that represented.
Or you're a tabaxi.
Or maybe I'm gonna stop. Oh boy. Okay.
Remember when we were talking about Convergence?
Oh yes, Convergence, the campaign of bloody hairballs. Okay, so Cole has a question for me. Were there difficulties in trying to bring these two storylines together? Where was it a struggle, and where did it seem to perfectly align? Man, definitely. Oh, did I skip one? I did skip one. Oh, I'll come back to Acer Sin's question in just a second. I almost missed it. Difficulty in putting the storylines together. At the very first, yes, because I knew that I wanted them to be intertwined with one another from the very beginning, and to kind of seed and foreshadow things that I knew would happen later on. And that's always somewhat difficult to do in the very, very beginning. But the thing that I kept hitting on, the tentpole mantra, if you will, was that everything was going to be dyadic with one another. Everything where I could, I was going to make them mirrors of each other. So when I created one thing on one side that I knew absolutely needed to be a part of the game for whatever reason, because it was in somebody's backstory, or it was a part of that side of the hemisphere that I wanted to showcase, or what have you, I would then typically go and create what I felt was a good balance for the other side of the world. And so in doing that back and forth between them, that ended up giving me enough material to then kind of work backwards from, to kind of carve away from, and leave just kind of what I wanted on each side. So that seemed to work after I got those wheels spinning and realized that that's how I needed to do it. But going back to Acer's question. If you had to pick one of your characters to play in a more long-term game, which one would you pick? She notes that that would be Sophie's choice.
It's a tough question to answer, but I think for myself, Darshepsa would be the character that I would want to play in a long-term campaign, more so. I think there was so much. For me, he was more well realized than Yuka was as a concept, and there was so much there that could be explored about the whole religion, the Dreadsteel, that whole aspect of Arrath that we touched on, but it would be really cool to explore that.
I'd say this is going to be a cop-out answer, but by myself, Hodge. But if Matt was playing Okex, then Thabanon.
That's a fair answer.
Yeah, because Hodge was very easy for me to hop into because she was just a completely reactive person and very like, that's just fun to do, especially for like heroes when it's like you don't have to be the angsty, messed up hero, but you could just be the kooky old person who gives people edibles. Like that's fun. But for Thabanon, at first, like when I had made him with Jeremy, I built him like a loner. But when the game started, and like the great thing about like games is when you discover who your characters are as you play them. Like Thabanon and Okex's bond became intrinsic to who Thabanon was. So I wouldn't play him unless I had Matt playing Okex along the game too.
Yeah, I think I would choose Ceci. I think Ceci is a very interesting character for me as someone who is very, very in touch kind of with who they are and very like confident. Maybe not at first, but like kind of growing into their confidence. Also, I think Matto is he's just not a great guy, just in general. So I don't think I'd enjoy playing him in the long run. He's just done too much bad shit for me to.
Maybe for like a Curse Strahd game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's that kind of character. But yeah, I really liked Ceci, and I really liked the lore that we built with Volstana. So I think with Ceci, I would have loved to explore more with them.
And to compliment to you, Em, such a great character to play off of as Hodge. Like the dynamic between the two of us as those characters was so nice because there was just this quiet like strength to Ceci that could just hold back the tide of whatever Hodge would just do all the crazy shit she does, which was awesome on my end because it really felt like it gave me permission to play more with that relationship, and you met it 100% of the time. And like the quiet reactions Ceci would have to some of the things that Hodge would do would be like the button for like scenes we'd have because they'd be so funny. So yeah, totally Ceci.
Yeah. Oh, I loved Ceci and Hodge's relationship too. Yeah. It was so great. Cause yeah. And like, I just loved that, like, I loved the relationship between Ceci and Hodge because it was like very opposite. It was opposite to Matto and Thabanon, which I thought was also really cool.
That was really funny, where we were like, I hate you in this game too. I love you. I love this game.
You're like my mom. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And we like helped each other too, because it was like you were obviously like my caretaker, for lack of a better term. But I would also be like, like your eyes and ears essentially be like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. And also, don't be so sad about this. And you know what? Your siblings do suck. It's not you, it's them. Like,
Wait.
yeah, we'd help each other out.
You heard Hodge.
Yeah. Yeah.
You suck too.
Your sister needs a bead. She needs a chill.
Yeah. And yeah, when M came to me and asked if they could play a blind character, I was like, absolutely, that's really cool. I love that. And you know, we worked through how that would work mechanically and all that kind of stuff. And that's definitely the kind of thing where, to me as a DM, I would rather somebody be able to play that character concept out than constantly be looking for ways to punish a player for making that choice for a character. And again, like in a world where, you know, people can actually live in a place that never sees the sun, that's hardly a far-fetched concept. So I think having, you know, and obviously the blind swordsman is kind of a trope that, you know, goes back, you know, a long time in storytelling. So
some of that
absolutely.
Satoichi in there.
Yeah, and then again, you mentioned, you know, the reasons behind it, and then I had the whole, you know, there's these blind priestesses in my mind, and I was like, oh, okay, so now you're gonna fight some blind priestess assassins, because, you know, why the hell not?
That was wicked. That was like
cool.
that I think was
Yeah,
one of the
those are
scariest fights I ever had.
That was
like,
both super awesome and also it really sucked. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can't do anything, I can't see. Yeah, it was oh, that was so tense.
Good. Fights should be tense.
I shout out to Mammoth and Monkey, the Treshar Old Hodge tag team coming for the tag team titles. Really appreciated the giant where we were both like, I'm gonna do polymorph, I'll do it too. That was fun to do.
Yeah, when I described how that battle had gone to my wife afterwards, and I got to the part where I was describing how it all ended, and there's this, you know, giant mammoth and this giant Yeti gorilla thing, she was like, wait a second, hold on, what? Like, back up. I don't understand. What happened?
And you didn't even get to the mammoth balloon part.
Oh no. That's right. Frozen stiff floating. That's right. Oh my god, the freaking like fate system you had going on there. That was insane. And it also, yeah, it led to Hodge frozen in air floating at the end, which was pretty great.
Yeah, I knew, like, I wanted you guys to have this combat at the spot where the altar was, in this kind of room with these threads of fate. And I was like, this is going to be a mess. They're going to be cutting these threads left and right. Like, how do I deal with that? How do I make that seem impactful? Like, not just a, oh, whatever, you know, these 6 are now severed, big deal. Other than just telling you, every time you do that, somebody dies. And somehow I hit up on the idea that having like a part of that life basically leech into you whenever you do that, you know, both for the good and the bad. I was like, I think that'll keep it impactful, but also make the fight really dynamic and kind of change things constantly from round to round. So I was really happy with how that played out, for sure. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions that we have from the audience so far. Do the 3 of you have anything that you want to bring up or talk about or ask or
Well, I have
shame
one
me
question.
over? Okay.
When's the reunion game?
I think by definition you have to wait at least a year before you can have a reunion.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Well, I mean, we could like do the play up to Convergence where it's we run another Convergence game, but it starts on the Hitus side and then does the Tanthara side.
Oh, it's completely different than
Yeah,
the
it's
one we
completely
did.
different.
Yeah.
Totally
absolutely.
different. New characters.
Separate group.
Yeah, separate group. Both going to the Mist for another reason. It's fine.
Sure. Yeah. I could totally think about that.
Yeah, just whip it up. It'll be easy.
Sure. We will at least get the chance to play in Caldera at some point.
Yes.
The group wanted to do that, and I'm very much looking forward to putting that together.
So what is Caldera? That's my question. Like, it's Western. I know that, but
Yes.
y'all seem to know what it is. But what is it for an uninitiated?
So it's basically a fantasy world where there was a kingdom that was rife with magic. They had an abundance of it. And something happened called, I think I called it the Sundering, if I'm remembering right. Maybe. No, that was Sunderhearth. Maybe it's called the Reckoning. That could be Deadlands. I don't remember. Anyways, this big, scary, magical explosion essentially happened. And kind of, if you're familiar with Harry Potter, it splintsed like the entire kingdom. So basically just kind of magically tore or ripped in part this entire kingdom full of magic. So there's buildings that are halfway there and halfway buried underground. Some of them are completely underground. There's bits and pieces of them everywhere. And this kingdom that was to the east is now coming into the ruined territory of this kingdom. And instead of mining for gold, they're mining for magic items and spells to bring back to the east, where magic is very regulated. And essentially, it's a frontier that has now advanced to, guns and trains and that kind of stuff. But there's magic and fantasy that's kind of baked in. So
it's like Wild West meets Fallout.
Yeah, The Reckoning. Thank you, Kaeryn.
Yeah, that's badass. I love that.
So I ran. It was the first thing that I ran on my YouTube channel, and I ended up. It was a one shot for an online convention that we all had a really good time with, and decided to push it into a campaign. It ended up running for 15 sessions, I think. So they fought a cactus treant at one point. They fought a rock that was actually a buzzard. The very end, there was a locomotive golem. There was a hill giant at one point that wielded a bank vault door as a shield, among other things.
God.
So it was very much a Western fantasy type thing. They fought the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Yeah, lots of fun stuff. And I've run a lot of one shots and stuff in Caldera kind of through the years since then.
Well, sweet. That sounds super cool. That really puts the ye in my ha.
Yep. It's fun. It's a fun setting to run.
Oh, I bet.
I'm looking forward to it, especially with this group. That'll be a lot of fun. Yes, the other kind of rock, Cole. Sorry. Let's see, what else? Oh, also, not everybody from this game, Jackson will not, sadly, be a part of this, but starting at the end of August, there will be a brand new campaign launching on my YouTube channel called Evermore La Masquerade. I'm representing today, Evermore. And it will be starring 4 of the 5 people from this game, as well as a surprise, as of yet unannounced, member in the game. It takes place in a different world, a world where I've set a couple of online campaigns and stuff called Rostfin. This is going to be the Kingdom of Gerdes, which is based on Baroque Spain, France, and Venice, as well as some Orlais from the Dragon Age series, if you're familiar with that. So lots of masks and dancing and intrigue and sex, and yeah, should be fun. Looking very much forward to that. Like I said, we kicked that off with Session 0 at the end of August. Debauchery galore, indeed. Cole asked when the Caldera game is going to be. We have not set a date yet. but I believe I'm looking at doing that as my one-shot for September. So I'm going to float out dates to this group, kind of see if that works for everybody, and we'll try to see if we can find a date that everybody can make, and we'll make it happen. Cool. So unless anybody has anything else that they want to touch on before we call it an evening, I think we're ready to call it a night here.
Did you have the ending planned from the beginning? Did you know exactly like the merging, the convergence, if you will? I mean, I assume so from the title,
but between the two entities, yes, the Oracle and the Child, I knew how I wanted that to go. Yeah. And if you go back and watch the only other two Arrath games that are on my channel, where I ran Oath of the Frozen King and then a hot version of that, I actually hint at the plot to this campaign in that game. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of difference between the two in the specifics, but yeah.
Damn, that's cool. Did you have the idea that we would form together our characters into like nightmare beasts?
Yes, because that is what the creatures in the gray are. They are when two halves of the same soul basically wander too close together, they enter the gray and end up finding one another. They become these horrifying nightmare beasts.
That's so sad, but so cool. That's all.
Yes, it is. It is sad, and that's I had reservations about ending the game that way because I know that people get very attached to their characters and often like for them to have that kind of epilogue right off into the sunset kind of ending, where the possibility to come back and play them is always there. But all of you are mature enough players that I was pretty sure it would be okay, and that's why I kind of prefaced the finale before we ever played, just so you know, things aren't going to end well necessarily for your characters. And yeah, you all did great with it. It was awesome. Sincerely.
I honestly can't wait to find out how you stat out each one of our critters for, subsequent games.
Looking forward to the all monster sequel game where we all get to like play the beasts.
We get to hunt the mortals.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, to the new evil Convergence campaign. Can't wait.
Out of the dark. Yeah, that would be fun. Awesome. All right, everybody. I think that's all that we have. And thank you all so much for coming along on this ride with us. Excuse me. Getting choked up. I'm getting verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves. So thank you very much for coming along on this ride with us. I had a ton of fun running this game for this group of kooks. And for all of you kooks, my fellow nerds. Thank you very much again to Jake, Dwight, and to Jordan for inviting me onto MiniTerrainDomain, all of us onto MiniTerrainDomain to run a game here. It was amazing. It was really cool to run a game on Twitch. I've only done the odd kind of one shot here or there, so this was kind of eye-opening in a really good way. It was fantastic to do things like with the domain dice and interact with everybody a little bit more than I typically do in my games. So thank all of you for coming along on this fantastic mini campaign. And to the players, Matt and Austin, it was fantastic. Sorry that you guys either had to leave or were not able to join us this evening. It was fantastic running this game for you. For the three of you, Kaeryn, Jackson, M, thank you very, very much. Like I said, for not only agreeing to play in this game, but for sincerely bringing top quality role-playing to these characters, not only in the development, but also in the actual execution of playing them. And being willing to extend enough trust in me as a GM to push them and twist them in such harsh ways, and not only being okay with it, but genuinely wanting that for your characters, so that it can push them to grow and change throughout the course of the story. Yeah, running games for players like you is always a joy. It's one of the things that makes this job so much fun. So thank you.
Thank you for being an incredible dungeon master who took us along for this ride. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Jackson. Thank you. Okay. I love all of you very, very much from the bottom of my heart. And until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.